And we on the screen just below my chin, or actually over my chin, Innotivity Live. I am Michael Lee of the Innotivity Institute, and we are live. We are live on many different platforms. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook. We are live. And for a moment that YouTube was playing, so I've turned it off. I am here today. This is really how creativity connects to the idea of actually speaking up, being able to say the things you need to say in order to be effective in your life. Now, some people don't say what they need to say because they're scared to say it, because they're worried somebody will judge them. Some people don't say what they need to say because they don't actually know what it is they want to say. You know, some people think they're saying everything and then realize that they could take it to another level. That last one really describes me. And I've realized that this year I want to really support others in actually being able to speak up and say the things they want to say, and that is what I've realized I wasn't saying. That we're here today live with somebody who claims this is not their area of specialty, but I disagree. So I just want to introduce you to my good friend here, KK Diaz, who is one of, I would say, the most interesting thought leaders in South Africa, certainly. I hate the phrase thought leaders, as most of us do, but basically, KK, why don't you introduce yourself?
Wow. Thanks for the invitation, man. I'm KK Diaz, Bedi Northern Sutu by birth. I'm South African. I'm 43 years old. I'm a business strategist, a brand strategist. I do digital marketing as well. I've been in consulting space for, I have about 20 years experience in this space. I've been running a game business for about 16 of those years, and I love what I do. I work with so many different types of people, but predominantly what I do is I help business people with business strategies, with the knowledge and the digital technology they need to grow their businesses. And yeah, I love what I do, and I get to do a lot of speaking up as part of what I do, and I do find myself needing to cajole my clients to get to speak up in terms of what they really want to achieve, and therefore how they believe I can best assist them to get to those goals. So yeah, that's me. And as a disclaimer, I guess the idea of speaking up is really not in the context of me, as Michael said, as not being here as an expert in that field, but as somebody who has some experience, both professionally and personally. And I think personally, there may be a few things that maybe we need to speak about as well, Michael, in terms of how I've gone ahead to speak up on certain things that have meant a lot in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when I asked you to be to co-host with me today, I was surprised when you said that you don't consider yourself someone who has expertise in this area, because you are obviously someone who says a lot of things, and you are someone who contributes a lot to people's success, to helping people, take action in life. So I would say, I wonder, the first question I want to ask you is really, what is it that had you actually say that this isn't an area of specialty for you, when in fact it really seems to be?
It's a very interesting question, and one of the things I do love about you is you were able to get me out of not only my comfort zone, but to get me to see a whole completely different perspective, right? And thank you for that question. I truly respect professionals and experts, and me being one in a few areas is I understand the amount of work that we put in proactively, through time, through effort, through learning, studying, being mentored, being coached, reaching out to colleagues so they can help us. I think one, at least in my book, one needs to kind of earn to be called an expert in a particular domain. and I just don't necessarily see myself as one who teaches people communication, at least. If anything, I help people to articulate certain aspects of what they need to communicate for specific reasons, but in very narrow verticals, if that makes sense. But in short, to answer your question, I truly respect and honor people who are experts in certain fields, and I don't necessarily see myself as a domain expert when it comes to teaching people communication. And more than communication, I think there's then the idea of speaking up, which speaks to courage, right? Which speaks to leadership, which speaks to purpose, which speaks to everything else that follows after that.
Right. And I personally would say that when you talk about words like courage, leadership, purpose, KK Diaz comes to mind.
Appreciate it.
So, I guess the thing I'm trying to achieve, I think, with each of these talks that we're doing live is to maybe just even find that one principle that you can distill for people who are here watching, whether it's live or in a recording. What is the one principle you think you could contribute? Maybe what you've learned for yourself or what you've seen in others. Like, what is the one thing that can best help people actually speak up and say what they need to say? What do you think that would be?
It's purpose, right? And purpose in the context of what the hell do you stand for? What do you fight for, right? It may be explicit, it may sound extreme, but what are you willing to die for, right? Because here's the thing, if you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything else. And if you fall for everything else, what are you going to speak up for? And who are you going to speak up for, right? For me, purpose is the single principle, the single value that has put me in a position where I can speak up professionally and personally for what I believe, not just what I'm entitled to, but what the human beings in my life are also entitled to. And so those who cannot speak for themselves, I stand for those ethics. I stand for the principles of speaking up for what is right, whether professionally and otherwise. But it goes without saying that there's some serious backlash that one can experience for speaking up. And we will touch on that if it gets to that. But to answer your question, purpose is a single value, the single principle that can help someone to build up the courage, to build up the strength that is required to say, hey, enough is enough, or I need to speak up because either the business is failing or finance is committing some corrupt activities that's going to result in the business failing and people losing jobs, or so-and-so is not doing their part, or the team is not playing ball with team X for whatever reason. I'm all about progress. I'm all about all of us going forward. I'm all about us achieving prosperity. And the opposite happens when people don't speak up.
It's interesting too, because you just said a phrase, which is one of my favorite phrases to notice when people say it. It goes without saying, you said. Right? So I love that phrase because obviously it doesn't go without saying, or you wouldn't say it goes without saying, right?
True.
And it's like one of these things that we do. We say that, but the funny part about it is like that's one of the keys to why people don't necessarily say what needs to be said, because they actually think it goes without saying, right? They don't need to say that.
Yeah.
My other phrase, by the way, that I really really love is easier said than done. Because the fact is, right, everything is easier said than done. There's literally nothing that's not easier said than done.
Yeah.
And yet, right, there are so many things that people don't say.
100%.
So I know I've taken us a little off the purpose point, but I just want to also greet people who are watching. Again, whether you're watching and recording or whether you're watching live. So Stanley Beckett is making a comment. He said that whatever we just said was well said, so that was it. Thanks, Stanley. And Luciano, Dr. Luciano Santini. So welcome to you. If you have any questions for KK or comments, or if you'd like to actually have us help you explore what you need to say that you're not saying. One of the first times we did this live, we had a guest come on, friend of yours, in fact, KK. and she really got a lot out of the conversation because she actually came on and got to get clarity on what she could be saying that she wasn't saying, and found purpose actually, right? Okay, with she realized that she was suffering from a bad impact of something that was happening to her, and she didn't know what to do about it really. And when she realized that it gave her a purpose, that she could actually help other people.
Wonderful.
And I think that's one of the things that I've learned. I'm curious what you think about this as someone who is a coach, essentially, that you help businesses, and you help, people to succeed. It seems that when we forget about ourselves and we worry more about other people, it's easier to say the things that need to be said. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I would say maybe not worry, but I would not use the word worry. I would say, when we dedicate, just going back to purpose, when we dedicate ourselves to a purpose, and normally by virtue of the word and its definition, purpose means it is beyond you, right? It is beyond the money. It is beyond the material. It really encompasses communities. It encompasses our country, continents, and so in itself, it becomes about other people, and you somehow become selfless to some extent, and you actually build up so much more strength, so much more courage to be able to, as you say, to speak up on behalf of other people and to help them. But I totally agree with you, because it's just that scenario in itself has gotten me out of the deepest and the darkest parts that I've experienced, and I'm sure other people have experienced the same. Is, when you look beyond your own problems, and you help other people, you somehow get to find answers to your own problems. But it's also easier to see solutions to other people's problems than our own. So it kind of works both ways. And I think yeah, it's easier to fight, I think, for other people and to show other people the way. Not because we can't for ourselves, but we also learn that way, right? We learn by extending ourselves to others. We get the feedback and we're like, okay, cool. If I was able to do that for that person, that means I can definitely do it for myself.
Yeah, and by the way, I completely agree with you that using the word worry is terrible. So I apologize profusely for that. Just a pause here for a second. I just want to note, if you're watching, again, whether it's live or recording, you can register to get reminded every week about the Innotivity Live at this web address, which is really simple, bit.ly/Innotivity Live. So it couldn't be simpler, right? So please register there. That way you don't have to remember to join us at this time. You'll get a mail that will remind you and tell you who the co-host is. And that, so please do that. Again, if you want more close up, it's that bit.ly Innotivity Live. I want to point out, KK, we have some great comments from Dr. Luciano has basically said that a leader must be able to speak up. And, he hates the term, it is what it is. He says that gets him to realize that the person saying that is too lazy or scared to say or do anything to bring about change. So that's another interesting point. What do you think of that idea that really, like, when someone says it is what it is, they're kind of, I guess the word would be jaded or resigned and cynical, or kind of unwilling to create a world that they want,
and surrendering, which I'm not a fan of doing. Right? I totally agree with that, and I think it means accepting things that we generally would not want to accept, and I think it's typically somebody not saying that to themselves, but they want to say it to somebody else, and they kind of influence and affect the other person not to do anything about whatever may seemingly be unfair, may seemingly be incorrect, or unethical. It is what it is, i.e. we've got corrupt leaders in our government, so it is what it is. And then it means we shouldn't do anything about it because we haven't been able to do anything about it in the past. So I totally agree. I also dislike that phrase.
So how would you say, KK, that if we're looking at, like, you said purpose is the one thing that can really focus somebody to be able to speak up. What would you say if you look back at for yourself, can you think of a time that you didn't actually, say what you needed to say, that you then, either had a bad impact from that, or you finally did do it and got a good impact? Can you think of any story about that? I know I'm putting you on the spot a bit. You
No, it's
didn't
cool.
prepare.
It's cool. I'm on the. I mean, I've been on the spot, right? I think it's it's more. I've gotten more in trouble because I speak up quite a lot, right? So
Mhm.
it's not. Um, let's see. The easiest example that comes to mind is with my kids, right? Um, people know that I've been sharing the story with my 4-year-old daughter, who's now staying with me, right? For years, I didn't get to see my daughter. She didn't get to see her dad because the baby mama wanted to control us and do whatever she wanted. And I suffered quite a lot as a result of that. I was empty for years. And I get my power base from home, right? And if my home is shaky or on shaky ground, or I'm incomplete at home, I'm unable to perform at work. I'm unable to perform for my clients, at least at the best level that I could. And things kind of went haywire as a result. But what I did is I did what I thought was the right thing, and it turned out to be the right thing, which was to speak up, right? South Africa is known as a fatherless nation because for various reasons. Yes, there's some douchebags of dads out there that just make babies and
South
and
Africa is
and
known as a
they
fatherless
just
nation.
disappear, right? But and then there's a whole lot of us who are being sidelined, alienated, and being excluded from our kids' lives because the system is that way. The system tends to protect and I think overly protect the women's side of the story. But I spoke up, and I'm glad that I was able to speak up in court with the social workers, with the judges, and I was able to get my daughter. And I got the court order a few months ago. My daughter lives with me full time now. I'm a full time dad. I'm a primary caregiver. I'm a primary parent, and I guess that's one story that started one particular way, but has become a success story for me right now. And I'm out there just speaking to as many fathers as I can, who are alienated from their kids, to say, hey, you got to speak up. It's because it can be soul destroying if we don't. And I think the same principles apply at work and in our communities as well.
As a father myself, who has also gone through that kind of story, going in and out of being able to see my daughters, it's a really important point you're making. I think is that it is a typical thing that fathers are silenced when they actually are good fathers. And I know so many single mothers, right? So many women who are dealing with terrible fathers. It always really upset me when being like yourself, someone who's actually committed to being a good father, being shut down. And in that sense, getting really kind of, let me try to use a polite word, getting really kind of dumped on for actually speaking up, right? Like, stop complaining, or, you should be grateful for what you have, or, why should I do all these things for my child and not be given the respect of actually, being allowed to be the father fully, right? So it's a great example that you've raised. I'm going to ask you one last question before we wrap up. I want to ask the audience too this question: what is it you need to say that you're not saying? And again, this could be you're not saying it because you don't know what it is. It could be you're not saying it because you don't think you need to. As one of our guests in the audience, Dr. Luciano, said, it could just be that you think things are okay as they are, and why rock the boat? There's a lot of reasons could be behind that, right? But what is it you need to say? And KK, what I'm going to do in a minute is ask you that question, but I want to share one thing about something that I dealt with today, which is that a person that I've known for a long time, don't know that well, but have known for a long time, passed away this week. And
Condolences.
thank you. And, her partner, he is someone that I kind of know better than her. And my African mother, who lives in Durban, she's been kind of my surrogate mother here in Africa. For those of you know that I'm originally not from here, as you can hear in my accent, I'm definitely not from LinkedIn. But she was in town. She called me and told me about this, and I went to the funeral today. And a couple things, I realized, like, when we get to that point in life where we die, what is it that wasn't said? What is it we didn't say before we passed away? My stepfather is busy passing away right now, very slowly. And, there's things that we don't when they're passing away, or when, things we didn't say to them and they die, we never get to say them. There's things that we never say and then we die. So it's as silly as that might sound. I'm really present to it today, that there are really no boundaries in life we need to respect around, stopping ourselves from communicating or stopping ourselves from really actually being willing to speak up. And again, like I've said it before, it's not about like being insulting or, telling somebody off. I'm saying, I think in our hearts, we know what the difference is, and we know what are the things that we're holding back on. And that's what we're encouraging. I think everybody is, speak up. Yeah. What do you need to say? So I'm going to ask you this question, KK, before we wrap up. And I am asking it as well from all of the people watching. And I'm going to tell you what Stanley Beckett says. He says he needs to say something which many people need to say but don't know how. He says, I need help because I don't know everything. So Stanley, we're going to run out of time here, I think. But if you come back next week, we're happy to actually have you join us and have you actually share about what you need help with. So consider that, because we'd like you to actually get it out, whatever it is you want to say and whatever you need help with. But I'm going to ask, so Stanley, thank you for being brave enough to say that in a public forum, right? Because I think a lot of the time, like you're pointing out, people need help. They don't speak up, right? Yeah. So Hannah has come from Illinois. Stanley's going to be here next week, so that'll be great. Hannah from Illinois is looking to open up a spiritual shop in the next 6 months, looking for insight on how to do it. And Hannah, same thing. Come back next week, same time, same place, and we will work with you to get the clarity for you about what it is that you need to say. Because sometimes saying is also action, right? Doing things is also a form of speaking. Now I'm using up all the time that I'm supposed to be giving to you. So KK, sorry about that. But the question I have for you is the question that's at the bottom of the screen. What do you need to say, KK, that you haven't been saying?
Can I read something first before I answer the question?
Okay.
So earlier this week, my coach Trevor Waller wrote up one of his excerpts from his book. He wrote a little post, and he was saying something very relevant to, I think, today's topic. He said, the first person to whom we need to tell the truth is ourselves. How long will we wait before we tell the truth, and what price will we pay for not telling it? What needs saying? What needs doing? What is stopping us from living in truth? What truths about your business need telling? What will the impact be? And the caption is, tell the truth faster.
Nice.
I need to speak to my father, right? My father is probably one person that I've learned more how not to be a father than I learned how to be a dad. And a lot of things haven't gone away, right? That I've accepted a lot in terms of what I can and can't do with the situation, but there's certain things that still need to be said. I have siblings that that I'm unable to do things with as a result of the lack of intervention from him. So that's what I'm going to do this weekend. I'm going to speak to my father about those things. And as you say, you know, I would hate for him to, or even for me to pass on, or for him to pass on without these things have been said, because I kind of see myself saying some horrible things at his funeral. Should it be that way? You know how we imagine stuff, right? And I'd rather put it out there and just get it over and done with, and see, you know, just put it out there and see how he reacts to it. I think that's what I need to say. I need to speak to my father about a couple of things that I'm uncomfortable with. Yeah.
I got you. And by the way, we have a lot in common. I know we haven't discussed some of these things ever, but my father also taught me more about how not to be a father than how to be a father. And strangely, my stepfather, who's passing away at the moment, although I've resisted and resented him in many ways throughout my life, taught me more about how to be a father than my father ever did. So I really get what you're saying. I have a challenge for you, KK. Will you be willing to put a post up next week after you have the conversation? Share with us what you achieved in that conversation. Refer back to this and let us know, you know, what you got by speaking up.
Of course.
I mean, you know, you don't have to share all the details, right? But just
that
you had a conversation with your father that you never had, and encouraging people to do that kind of thing.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, man. And I'd love to do that. And thanks for the opportunity. And I have to say, if it wasn't for this conversation, I don't know when I would have stepped up to speak up with him, you know? So thank you.
Well, and thank you for being here. It's a remarkable thing, right? It doesn't take a lot.
No.
We go on for years not saying something that we should say. And just by talking about it for a few minutes, suddenly we realize the damage that we're doing.
Yeah. And that's why we got to speak up, because speaking up doesn't mean, you know, using a loudspeaker to speak to large masses. It starts with one-on-one. It starts with ourselves, like the post I just read from Trevor. You know, it's I'm asking myself first, what truth do I need to tell myself? And then speak to you, speak to the next person, and take it from there. Those very simple, small steps can be extremely transformative. Yeah.
So you're never going to tell somebody again that when they ask you to do something, you're never going to say it's not your specialty, right?
Okay, I promise I won't. Yeah. But that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, because I'll take the opportunity with both hands. You know what I mean?
Oh, look at that. Stanley wants you to come talk about this on Man Talk on 702. I don't know if Stanley has the authority to do that, does he?
Yeah, he's got a weekly slot with
nice.
with Aubrey Masango.
Nice. Okay. Well, Stanley has invited you to come talk about your father on 702. So
look, my dad does have a bit of a position, you know, in the country. People know him. I don't want to put him in a position that's going to be uncomfortable for him in the public. So I'm more than happy to talk about myself. Yeah. But yeah, I'll take the opportunity on, you know. I'll speak to Stanley. Stanley and I are peeps, so he'll let me know what he's thinking of doing, and then we can take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you, KK, for being here and you know, stretching a little bit beyond what you expected. I know that that's not actually that hard for you, because you do always take on more than you think you can. You know,
for sure. And I'm not all about business. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even talk about business in the direct way, but I think we did, right? Sure. So it is time to go. I wish we could go longer. Those of you who have not done this, please do go register at this very simple address, bit.ly Innotivity Live. That way you can always get reminded in case you forget, which all of us do. I even need a reminder to do this thing. So that way you can get reminded. And one other favor I want to ask you, if you haven't done this yet, please go to YouTube and subscribe to Innotivity TV. Simple, Innotivity TV, YouTube. So that's all I got to say. KK, thank you very much for being here. That's KK Diaz, A Game Business. Anything else you want to say?
Thanks, Michael, and big up to you, man, for starting this platform. I see it growing every day. Big up, congratulations, and yeah, let's keep pushing it.
Cool, man. Thank you for participating and being part of it.
Thanks for the invitation, brother.
Bye, everybody. And thank you to all of you.